Today we got our first proper look at the Forge. This is Anthem's customization and personalization hub. Now, when BioWare talks customization in Anthem, they're referring to building an actual loadout, the things that you'll modify that affect gameplay, your different gear slots, your primary and secondary weapons, the ways in which you'll actually build a playstyle for your Javelin of choice. We did not see that side of the Forge today. The side we saw is the personalization side of the Forge. This is where you do all of the cosmetic modifications, cosmetic customizations for your Javelin to make it your own. This is a very, very deep system. This is way, way more than I ever expected BioWare to go ahead and do. And the devs that were on hand to explain the system, which they had actually worked on, referenced Mass Effect. And they said, you know, with Mass Effect, we were never really satisfied with the ways in which you could customize your Shepard, you know, especially when you picked up new pieces of gear. They didn't look as good as the base model. They weren't as detailed. So we wanted to build something richer. So they started building a system pretty much from scratch with the idea of extreme customization in mind. They did it with physically based rendering, PBR, which is something you hear a lot. And they started creating real materials to go with the paint to really create a system that gave a lot of variety and a lot of personalization, and that really flexed a lot of cool things that go well beyond just changing the color of one type of material 1,000 times over. So let's start at the top with the Forge by taking a look at your silhouette. Your silhouette can be modified by swapping out your helmet, which is swapped out entirely, adding pieces of armor like shoulder pads to your arms, chest, and legs. So all of the Javelins function as a base model. You can swap out the helmet, but your arms, chest, and legs essentially have armor pieces applied to them. These armor pieces, though, are unique for each of the Javelins, so you're not like sharing a chest piece across 3 Javelins and having a bit of a, you know, just kind of half-arsed, not that exciting looking chest piece. These are unique pieces for the Javelins, and when they were showed off in stream, they looked absolutely fantastic. Of course, you can then go in and paint them and apply different materials to them because they are now a part of the suit. Moving on from that, we have your appearance, which includes painting. We'll talk about that in a second because it's really deep. It also includes the ability to modify your wear state, so you can have a super crisp, clean Javelin that looks like it's never seen a battle a day in its life, or you can have a Javelin that looks like it's been battling every day for all of its life. It can be worn down, it can be covered in grease, and this kind of ties into what we're going to talk about with paint, but that wear state is going to look different across a variety of materials that you can select when painting your Javelin. So cloth is going to get dirty like cloth. Metal is going to get worn down like metal. Again, they're using PBR to do some realistic stuff there. That's going to tie into a lot of the ways in which the Javelins are going to start to look extra special, I think. Again, going beyond just, hey, change the color of this one material a bunch of times. Beyond wear state, you have vinyls, which are custom one-off vinyls that will essentially apply a decal to the entire Javelin. These vinyls are shared. Once you unlock them, you can apply them to all of the Javelins, and they are locked. They are, again, one-off, designed by the art team. You won't be changing their colors. They are there to stand out potentially in-game as, hey, I did this thing, or I took down that thing. I completed this challenge, you know, as a way to really stand out from the crowd and say, I did this. We talked a lot about that not that long ago, and that's exactly how they're handling things like vinyls, which I think is really cool. Last, we have a set of animations, including your landing animation and a bunch of emotes. They showed off some of this stuff. They're animations, they're emotes. Of course, they're fun. I'm glad they're there. A lot of it is not quite ready yet, so we didn't get to see the landing animations or anything like that, which is actually what I'm more excited about, just because total nerd moment. Let's move on and actually talk about how painting and applying different materials to your Javelin works. Now, in this case, they've broken up the Javelins into 6 regions, 3 hard regions and 3 soft regions. We've got primary hard, secondary hard, and tertiary hard, and of course the same thing for soft. You select a material. That material also has a subsection of ways in which it can appear differently. So you might have battered metal, aged metal, you might have diamond pattern leather, you might have canvas honeycomb fabric or painted panels, you might have a jersey material, and then depending on what material you've selected, you're going to get different colors in some cases. So while a lot of the things have the full spectrum of colors available, which by the way is a full color wheel, and you can then select colors that you've made from that color wheel to make your own custom color palettes. Some things like metal, because of the PBR, because of the lighting and the way they're doing things, are actually based on real world materials. So you can choose from titanium, tungsten, copper, gold, bronze, all sorts of things like that. And those, of course, then have their colors limited to the ways in which that material could be colorized in the real world and still maintain its sheen and its actual appearance. So, boom. There it all is. There are all the different layers and ways in which you're going to be able to stack customization. It is super, super deep, and I am ultra stoked on the custom color palettes, just being able to go into a color wheel, make the color I want, save it, build out my own palette. I mean, that's just quite fantastic. The materials, too, are like the real icing on top of the cake here, and being able to unlock different sort of moods for those materials, you know, like the battered metal and the aged metal, and you know, the diamond leather. And we saw so many different patterns in the live stream. A lot of those patterns are unique. Some of them might even be unlocked. There was a bit of a throwback to Dragon Age with one of the patterns even. They didn't really talk about how you're going to unlock materials. You know, paints are obviously going to be available right from the get-go with the color wheel, but materials and patterns, the subsets of those materials, aren't all going to be available right from the get-go when you boot up the game. They made that very clear. They haven't really decided on how they're doing what they're doing with that just yet, but I was able to notice that there was a rarity scale going on with a lot of the materials. So we saw like uncommon and common. So there's a good chance there will be super rare or exotic materials and patterns that can be unlocked by completing objectives, or, you know, maybe just from RNG drops. I also wouldn't be entirely surprised if this is the point in the game where they decided to really say, hey, let's, you know, sell some of this stuff with real money because we've got to turn a profit if we're going to offer all of this story content for free. So we'll see how they monetize it. We'll see how that ends up going down in the long run. But regardless, it is an extremely impressive system. It is far deeper than I ever expected it to be. And massive kudos to BioWare for recognizing how important player customization, player personalization, I should say, really is for this sort of an experience. I stand by all of you who are wishful in that at some point we'll get some form of a social hub for this game. Because I think it would be really cool to not just share my personalized Javelin with the people who watch my content and the people who I play with, but also just a bunch of people hanging out in a social hub. So maybe in the far future for Anthem, one day we'll all be hanging out in a social space somewhere, showing off our shiny metal arses. Let me know your thoughts on the Forge, guys. Impressed? Not impressed? Excited? Not excited? Let me know down in the comment section below. Leave all of your thoughts and more. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, remember to be awesome to one another, because at the end of the day, this is all we've got.
The most